Okay, so let's be real for just a sec. Like, who hasn't wished for a little more time, like more time for to travel, more time with family, loved ones. Heck, even just more time to like finally finish that book that everyone keeps recommending. And wouldn't it be wild if that more time stretched out for like centuries, maybe even like 1,000 years? Well, today we're going to do a deep dive into this paper that kind of suggests just that, and it's full of these wild ideas about where we live and maybe how that affects how long we live.
The paper that we're talking about today is called Fibonacci Synergy, Depth-Dependent Dimensions and Extreme Longevity. And it's definitely one of the more unconventional theories that are out there. It draws inspiration from this trilogy of books called L.S. Larkey's Gravity and Creation. And it suggests that living closer to the Earth's core could be the secret to extreme longevity.
So basically, instead of searching for the fountain of youth in some far-off land, we should be digging down, down, down.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, but I'm a little skeptical. What kind of ideas are we talking about here?
So the authors of this paper propose these two fundamental fields, the subtle magnetic field, let's just call it SMF for short, and then relative vacuum of space, or RVS. And they say that these are interacting in a really specific way. They even came up with this equation, the synergy PDE is what they call it. It's a partial differential equation to describe this interaction, which essentially creates like a wave lattice structure. And this structure is like supposedly tied to how fast we age.
Wait, so you're telling me this invisible lattice all around us and like how stable it is like directly linked to our lifespans? I'm picturing like this cosmic game of Jenga. If the blocks are all stable, we keep on living. But then like if things start to wobble, that's when aging kicks in.
Yeah, that's a great way to visualize it. And it gets even weirder. This wave lattice is also influenced by something they're calling Fibonacci scaling. It basically means that the patterns in this lattice are fractals. Think of like a snowflake where the same basic shape repeats itself over and over at these different scales.
So are you saying there's this giant cosmic snowflake influencing how long we live? Okay, I'm now really curious about where this is going.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild concept for sure, but here's where it ties back to living underground. So the authors argue that as you move closer to the Earth's core, this SMF, the subtle magnetic field we talked about, it starts unfolding these extra-dimensional degrees of freedom.
Hold on, are we talking about extra dimensions like in science fiction, like as in like dimensions beyond, the three that we experience in everyday life?
Exactly. They introduce this dimension function that increases as you descend towards the Earth's core. So the deeper you go, the more dimensions come into play. And this, they say this has this huge impact on that wave lattice.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit. So more dimensions equals a more stable wave lattice, which in turn means we age slower.
That's the core of their argument. And because of this this dimension unfolding, they also say that time itself is affected by depth. They even have like a time dilation function that describes how time would slow down as you move deeper.
Wait, slow down. Like if I lived at the Earth core, time would actually move differently for me than for someone on the surface. That's insane.
Yeah, it's definitely a head scratcher, but that's what they propose. Essentially, they're combining this idea of a more stable wave lattice deeper down with this concept of slowed down time and saying that together this could lead to this drastically reduced aging rate.
So it's not just about living longer. It's almost like stretching out the time you have. Instead of 80 years, maybe you'd have 800 years, but it would feel like the same amount of time to you.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Now, before you start packing your bags for a subterranean adventure, we need to make it clear. This is all highly theoretical and based on a very specific and definitely not mainstream interpretation of physics.
Right, right. I'm not planning on moving underground just yet. But it is a fascinating thought experiment. I mean, just imagine.
Well, before you let your imagination run too wild, let's unpack a few more details about this dimension unfolding SMF and how it all ties into aging.
You lead the way. I'm all ears.
So remember how we talked about that SMF, the subtle magnetic field, gaining extra dimensions as you go deeper? Well, the paper actually goes into a little bit more detail about how that actually works.
Yeah, okay. I'm kind of picturing this subtle magnetic field like a multi-dimensional accordion, like folding and unfolding as you like move closer to the Earth's core. The deeper you go, the more folds it reveals. Like it's like accessing these like hidden dimensions. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic analogy. It's kind of like those pop-up books, where like pulling a tab suddenly reveals these hidden depths, and these extra folds, these extra dimensions, are what they believe influence the stability of that wave lattice, making it more resilient to the effects of aging.
So basically, if you're living deep underground, your cells are like hanging out in this higher dimensional SMF, and they're basically just chilling out, aging at a way slower rate because the wave lattice is like so
Yeah,
stable.
that's the gist of it. They even speculate that this dimension unfolding might not just affect the aging process, but could have implications for how we experience reality itself.
Wait, what? Like our perception of time and space could be like fundamentally different deep underground. That's trippy.
Exactly. The paper suggests that with more dimensions, the possibilities for interaction between energy and matter could be vastly expanded. It's like stepping into this world where the rules of physics, like we know them, just don't quite apply the same way.
So if we could actually live at the Earth's core, which let's be honest is a pretty huge if. Right now we might not even recognize the world around us. I'm getting some serious sci-fi vibes from all this.
Yeah, it's definitely a mind-bending concept. But remember, this is all based on these theoretical models and these equations. The paper itself even acknowledges that there's a lot that we still don't understand about the nature of these supposed extra dimensions and how they would interact with our biology.
Okay, so maybe hold off on the underground bunker construction for now.
Hmm.
But I have to admit, this idea of this dimension-shifting reality deep within the Earth is it's incredibly intriguing. I'm curious though, if this like wave lattice meltdown they talk about, that they say is aging, is happening all around us. Why don't we see evidence of it in like fossils, for example? Wouldn't like deeper fossils be more, like pristine or something?
That's a great question, and the paper actually addresses that. They propose that this effect is likely concentrated around planetary bodies, where gravity is strongest. So while deeper fossils might show slightly less, degradation, it wouldn't be as dramatic as someone, living in those depths for centuries.
Ah, so it's not just about depth, but also about the like interplay between gravity and this dimension unfolding SMF. It's like this cosmic recipe for longevity. Like a dash of gravity, a sprinkle of extra dimensions, and voila, you got a recipe for a 1,000-year lifespan.
Yeah, that's a fun way to put it. But of course, it's not quite as simple as that. The paper highlights that their model is just one piece of a very complex puzzle. They admit that there are countless other factors that contribute to aging, like genetics, lifestyle, even environmental influences.
Right, right. It's not like we can just dig a hole and expect to live forever.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the practical implications of this theory. Even if we can't create subterranean cities just yet, could understanding this wave lattice lead to new anti-aging therapies or something?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the exciting possibilities the paper kind of hints at. If we could somehow replicate the conditions that stabilize this wave lattice, perhaps through some kind of technology that mimics the effects of higher dimensions, it could potentially lead to these breakthroughs in age-related disease research.
So maybe instead of moving underground, we could bring those underground conditions up to the surface, sort of like creating a personal anti-aging bubble.
Yeah, it's a fascinating idea, but of course it would require a much deeper understanding of these theoretical concepts and a whole lot more research before we could even begin to imagine such applications.
Right, right. Baby steps, baby steps. But it is exciting to think that even a far-out theory like this could spark new avenues of research and potentially lead to some, incredible discoveries in the future.
Absolutely. And that's what's so great about science, right? It encourages us to explore even the most unconventional ideas because you never know where they might lead.
Speaking of exploring, this paper isn't just about throwing out these wild theories. It actually proposes some, concrete steps for further investigation. I'm particularly intrigued by their suggestion of creating, an exotic cavern colony.
Ah, yes, their thought experiment to test their hypotheses in a controlled environment. Essentially, they propose building this research facility deep underground to directly observe the effects of this dimension unfolding SMF on biological systems.
Okay, so Maybe not a full-blown subterranean city just yet, but at least like a scientific outpost where researchers could like experience slowed down time firsthand. I'm picturing scientists in these like lab coats just sipping on coffee and aging at a snail's pace compared to the rest of us up on the surface.
It's definitely a fun image. They even suggest developing this like fractal lattice stability index to actually measure the stability of the wave lattice at various depths and like correlate it with these biological markers of aging.
Wow, so they've really thought this through. But I'm wondering, even if we could like build such a facility, wouldn't the ethical considerations be like enormous? We'd essentially be creating this two-tiered society, those who age normally and those who have access to this, like extreme longevity. It's like something straight out of a dystopian novel.
You've hit on a really crucial point. The paper acknowledges that any practical application of this theory would require like very careful ethical consideration.
Yeah.
If we ever reach a point where we can like manipulate the aging process, the implications for society would be just immense.
Yeah, it's a whole other can of worms for sure. But, for now I'm content with just letting my mind wander and like explore the possibilities. Yeah. This whole deep dive has been a wild ride. Have we covered all the major points of the paper, or is there anything else we should touch on?
I think we've covered the main ideas, but I think it's important to just emphasize that while this paper is very intriguing, it's crucial to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. We're not suggesting anyone start digging these underground bunkers just yet, but I think it's fair to say that this paper raises some incredibly thought-provoking questions about the nature of time, space, and aging itself.
Exactly. And even if this specific model turns out to be like incorrect, the very act of considering such unconventional ideas can like spark new avenues of research and lead to a deeper understanding of the universe and our place within it.
It's funny, as we've been talking about this theory, I can't help but think about all the stories and myths throughout history about these like hidden worlds beneath the Earth's surface.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme across like all these different cultures, isn't it? From like ancient legends of these subterranean cities to like modern science fiction tales of underground civilization. There seems to be this innate human fascination with what might lie like beneath our feet.
It's almost as if we're like drawn to the mystery of the unknown, to the possibility of these worlds hidden from view. And this paper, even though it's grounded in theoretical physics, it like taps into that same sense of wonder.
I agree. It's like it's inviting us to imagine this reality where the boundaries between science and myth, they become blurred.
And it makes you wonder, if it were possible to like safely explore the depths of the Earth, what might we find? Could there be like hidden ecosystems, strange life forms adapted to those like extreme conditions? Or maybe even, as this paper suggests, some sort of dimensional anomaly that like affects the flow of time.
Yeah, it is a tantalizing thought. And even if this paper's ideas about like extra dimensions and, slowed down aging turns out to be like a scientific dead end, it's definitely sparked a really interesting conversation for us.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes the most out there ideas are the ones that push us to think differently and ask these bigger questions. Exactly. So for you listening, what if we could actually step into this theoretical world? Like, say, hypothetically, you had the chance to live, deep underground and experience this slowed down aging, potentially stretching your lifespan to like 1,000 years. Would you take it?
Wow, that's a huge question. I mean, it's tempting to jump at the chance for more time, right? Think of all the things you could learn, the places you could see, the experiences you could have over centuries.
Right. I mean, 1,000 years, that's like 10 lifetimes all rolled into one. You could like master multiple skills, travel to, every corner of the world, witness like historical events firsthand. The possibilities are like endless.
But there's a flip side to that coin too. Like, what about the people you love? Would you watch generations come and go, constantly experiencing loss and saying goodbye? And how would you even like maintain relationships over such a vast time scale? Could you truly connect with people whose lifespans are just a mere fraction of your own?
That's a really good point. It's like that classic dilemma of immortality, right?
Yeah.
Would you really want to live forever if it meant watching everyone you care about grow old and die? It's a heavy burden to carry.
And what about the impact on society as a whole? If only a select few had access to this extreme longevity, wouldn't it create even greater divide between, the haves and the have-nots? We might see power structures like solidify with those who age slowly holding on to control for like centuries.
It's almost like we're stepping into like the realm of science fiction here with all these ethical and societal implications to consider. But that's what makes this paper so fascinating, right? It forces us to confront questions we might not have even thought about before.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that scientific advancements often come with a whole host of ethical considerations. We can't just focus on the potential benefits without, carefully examining the potential consequences as well.
Well said, well said. So, to bring it back to you, dear listener, what do you think? If you had the chance to live for 1,000 years, would you take it? And if so, what would you do with all that time? It's a question worth pondering, even if the possibility remains firmly in the realm of speculation.
It certainly is. And perhaps even more importantly, this paper encourages us to appreciate the time we do have, regardless of its length. Are we making the most of our days, pursuing our passions, and connecting with the people who matter most?
Beautifully put. This deep dive has taken us on a wild journey from the depths of the earth to the outer reaches of our imagination. We've explored these mind-bending theories about extra dimensions, the nature of time, and the tantalizing possibility of extreme longevity. It's been a truly thought-provoking experience.
And remember, even if this specific theory doesn't pan out, it sparked these important questions and reminded us that there's still so much we don't know about the universe and our place within it.
So to all you knowledge seekers out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive. Until next time, happy diving.